Welcome everyone to the New Light Temple's April service. We are recording this session and I'll be sharing it on our YouTube channel. I'm Reverend Dr. Bud James. I'll be leading our service today, joined by other bright lights that I'll be introducing throughout the service. Tonight's theme is the Golden Rule, a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. So just a little about me. I was originally ordained in 1992 by the Church of Divine Man. I joined All Faiths Seminary International about 10 years ago, became an interfaith minister, received my master's and doctorate in divinity. I'm on staff at All Faiths Seminary and a volunteer here at the New Light Temple. I feel that A Course in Miracles is my true north. Here's our agenda for the evening. We're going to be doing our invocation here shortly with our seasonal observations after that. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the Golden Rule. We'll have a fun guided meditation visualization. We'll have our universal blessing, and we get into the experiential sharing segment, which is very popular. It's a lot of fun for people to talk about their experience on tonight's theme. We'll have short announcements and then our closing. There is a lot going on in April. There are many, many observances in this month and pretty much every year. So I'll just go over some of the highlights. So when is the New Year in the Hindu religion? There's no single answer to this question. Numerous cultures that are part of Hinduism follow independent calendars, and the New Year Day and these calendars are based on seasons and the agrarian economy of the region. So Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and a holy month of fasting. The religious holiday marks the time when Muhammad received the initial revelations that would become the Quran. Fasting is an important aspect of the observance of Ramadan, and as soon as the sun goes down, Muslims break their fast with a light meal or snack called iftar before the evening prayer. They often meet afterwards in a larger meal with friends and family, and they do this for the whole month. And they also get up quite early before dawn and have a breakfast and then start all over again. Vaisakhi is an important day for the Sikhs as it commemorates several events that occurred in the past. In addition to it being a spring harvest festival, Sikhs observe the birth of Khasla, of the Khasla order, I should say, by Guru Gobind Singh, who was the 10th Guru of the Sikhs. The day also commemorates when Ranjit Singh was proclaimed as Maharaja of the Sikh Empire. And they also have a remembrance on this day of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. I'm not sure I said that right, which was very influential in the history of the Indian independence movement, very interestingly. Hanuman Jayanti is one of the biggest celebrated festivals in India. Lord Hanuman is worshipped as a deity with the ability to attain victory against evil and provide protection. On this auspicious day, devotees of Lord Hanuman celebrate him and seek his protection and blessings. They flock to temples to worship him and present religious offerings and receive prasad. And people also recite various devotional hymns and prayers and read Holy Scriptures. So it's a very, very big day on the 16th. The 16th through the 18th, if you're a Theravadian Buddhist, Happy New Year. So that was over, but yes, it was a Happy New Year. And now we are here in Passover. Now, Passover is a major Jewish holiday that celebrates the exodus of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. It's an 8-day affair with the first 2 and final 2 days celebrated as Yom Tov. In addition to only eating unleavened bread for the duration of the holiday and unleavened foods, I should add, the Passover Seder is one of the most widely observed rituals in Judaism. Easter is considered by many as the most important and oldest festival of the Christian Church, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. It is described in the New Testament as having occurred on the third day of his burial, following his crucifixion by the Romans in 30 AD. Easter observing Christians normally refer to the week as the Holy Week, and in Western Christianity, it begins on Palm Sunday, which is when Jesus came into Jerusalem, and it includes Spy Wednesday, Maundy Thursday, and Good Friday. And the most important point being the demonstration that bodily death is not the end. Ridvan is considered the holiest Baha'i festival. It's also called the Most Great Festival and the King of Festivals. It is a 12-day observation that commemorates Baha'u'llah's declaration that he was a manifestation of God, and thus it formed the beginning point of the Baha'i faith. And their festival includes 3 holy days, the 1st, the 9th, and the 12th day, in which work is prohibited. And these 3 holy days are usually observed with a community gathering where prayers are shared, followed by a celebration. For the humanists and everyone who loves Mother Earth, we have Earth Day, and that's actually tomorrow. And that's to demonstrate support for environmental protection. It was first held, interestingly enough, on April 22nd, 1970. And it now includes a wide range of events coordinated globally by earthday.org and has typically drawn more than 1 billion people to be interested in Earth Day. And the theme for this year is Invest in Our Planet. And in just a moment, I'll be inviting Reverend Don Kunze to come to the microphone and share our invocation.
Thank you. Yes, it's a nice introduction to what we hope is going to be a nice spring. It's working its way in. So let me begin the invocation with a little background. The New Light Temple was founded by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman as a haven where people of all beliefs and backgrounds could joyously come together to share their bountiful and varied gifts of spirit. The New Light Temple is the ordinating body for the All Faiths Seminary International. Our purpose is to provide a sacred space for people of all faiths and ages to celebrate diverse religious and spiritual traditions. We gather for connection, inspiration, solace, and healing, while fostering understanding, peace, love, and unity. In the words of Gandhi, I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source. I salute this source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace. And in the words of our founder, Rabbi Gelberman, never instead of, always in addition to. Reverend Bud?
Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. So tonight, as I mentioned, I'd like to dive into a rule that has guided me since my youth, the Golden Rule. Now, as you might imagine, I learned about the Golden Rule as a young man going to church on Sundays and studying the Bible. It was later reiterated in Boy Scouts, mentioned ever so slightly in school, and emphasized in DeMolay, which is a younger branch of Masons. However, most importantly, for this very comic book-oriented mind, I remember reading about it in Superman comic books and was very intrigued by the power of such a simple concept, because honestly, if it was one of Superman's main rules, then I should probably pay attention to it. At the core of the Golden Rule is a simple yet very powerful concept, and it's the ethic of reciprocity. Simply stated, treat others as you wish to be treated. And with these very, very few words, an entire, very deep and powerful understanding comes forth. And as we examine the Golden Rule just a little more closely, we start to realize that it comes in three general forms. First is the positive, and we've heard this many times. As I just said, treat others as you would like others to treat you. The second is the negative, or the prohibitive form, which says do not treat others in ways that you would not like to be treated. And the third is the most interesting to me, because the first two, the positive and the negative, focus on our words and our deeds. The third form, the empathic form, focuses on our thoughts, which, as I'm sure you're aware, happen well before our words and our actions. And the maximum here is very, very interesting. Think through this. What you wish upon others, you wish upon yourself. Now, we're not even speaking these things out loud, for instance, but this actually turns out to be the basis of some very important teachings, such as in Buddhism, we learn that they have this very interesting and very powerful notion that hating another person, is like taking poison and wishing the other person would die. So now we recognize that we've got these three different forms of the Golden Rule. Researchers have found hundreds of expressions of the Golden Rule. In fact, the Golden Rule can be found in some form or another in almost every ethical, secular, or religious tradition. And here are some of the more interesting versions that I've found, and I've done a bit of research into this area. It seems that the oldest written record of the Golden Rule is from Egypt, dated about 2000 to 1650 BC. Do for one who may do for you, that you may cause him thus to do. I'm sure it didn't rhyme in ancient Egyptian, but it sounds good today. From one of our most beloved philosophers, Socrates, around 440 BC, this is long ago, do not do to others that which would anger you if others did it to you. In the Mahabharata, the ancient epic of India, which was penned about 300 to 400 years BC, there's a discourse where a sage is teaching a king about the idea of dharma. And he says one should never do something to others that one would regard as an injury to oneself. In brief, this is dharma. Anything else is succumbing to desire. And from ancient Japan, we have a Shinto saying that was written well over 300 years BC. The heart of the person before you is a mirror. See there your own form. Now, isn't it interesting? In these old scripts, we see both sides to this. We see the notion of the positive, the negative, and we also see the empathic view. The general rule gives us tremendous guidance to live our lives by. There is a universality to it because it speaks to the goodness within all of us. At once, it both inspires us and challenges us every day. And the Golden Rule is a point of agreement and common denominator of all the world's various belief systems. The Golden Rule is actually a very simple message. You don't need long stories that tell us how to understand it. You can internalize it very, very, very quickly. most powerfully, its underlying principle focuses on our oneness, our unity as human beings. Now, while it's easy to understand, it can be challenging to practice in our everyday lives, especially when other people don't do the things we think they should be doing. And in fact, for myself, I remember thinking growing up, I'm working really hard here at practicing the golden rule. Why doesn't anybody else get a clue about what's going on and use the golden rule? And so it was a little bit frustrating for me. And eventually I had to realize that there was some forgiveness that had to go on in this whole process of learning how to be one with the rule. As we further examine it, we recognize that there's some very powerful values that emerge. And as I go through these, I'd like you to reflect on what they mean to you through the lens of the golden rule. And also notice how wide and diverse these simple values are and how they span all the various belief and secular systems. There is an implicit ethics in the golden rule. There's the unity that we spoke about. It obviously is a statement about nonviolence. It clearly, as a result, implies this understanding of social justice. As a result of applying the golden rule in the world of trade, we start to see that there's an economic justice as well. And when we think about that for a minute, we realize, yes, that's right. I can see the value of using this in the world of trade and mercantile. There's an implicit compassion because we're starting to recognize this connection, that this oneness of all humanity, and we're sharing the heart, as the Shinto people were saying, that person in front of you is a mirror of your heart. We start to see that this value system goes across all cultures and all generations. It also spans all religions. I'm going to go ahead and put into chat this poster. It is a wonderful poster from Scarborough Missions. So that's coming up now. And they're in Ontario, Canada. And this poster was originally envisioned by Paul McKenna. And it is a beautiful interfaith statement of all the different interpretations of the Golden Rule. It doesn't cover all of them, but it covers a lot of them. And instead of having me read each one, I'm going to let some of our younger generation share these powerful sayings.
There are those wise souls who remind us that the greatness of the Golden Rule is matched only by the difficulty involved in living it.
Buddhism. Treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful.
Christianity. In everything, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, for this is the law and the prophets.
Baha'i faith. Lay not on any soul a load that you may not wish to be laid upon you.
Hinduism. This is the sum of duty. Do not do to others what would cause pain if done to you.
Confucianism. One word that sums up the basis of all good conduct: loving kindness. Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself.
Jainism. One should treat all creatures of the world as one would like to be treated.
Unitarianism. We affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
Native spirituality. We are as much alive as we keep the earth alive.
Islam. Not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself.
The golden rule of Judaism is, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbors. This is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it.
Sikhism. I'm a stranger to no one, and no one is a stranger to me. Indeed, I'm a friend to all.
Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss.
Do not do to others whatever is injurious to yourself.
We are as much alive as we keep the earth alive.
In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you.
There are also those wise souls who remind us that knowledge of the Golden Rule comes not with study, but with practice.
There was one missing, and that was from A Course in Miracles. And I want to share its insights as well. Now, the Golden Rule is explicitly mentioned 3 times in the Foundation for Inner Peace's version of A Course in Miracles and 15 times in the text. The Course discusses the rule in all 3 contexts, the positive, the negative, and the empathic. Sometimes it's directly called out, and other times it's clearly implied. And here are a couple of examples. So in the text, we see the Golden Rule asks you to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's our direct restatement. This means your perception of both must be accurate. And so now, and one of the most important concepts of the Course is asking us to really examine how we see ourselves and how we see others. The Golden Rule is the rule for appropriate behavior. And it doesn't say that about anything else, by the way, in the entire book. You should look out from the perception of your own holiness to the holiness of others. A very powerful concept. And here's an indirect example, but we can see underneath of it the unity. All that I do unto myself. If I attack, I suffer. But if I forgive, salvation will be given me. Some beautiful examples of seeing the Course and seeing the Golden Rule in action. Now, in my opinion, the Golden Rule is the most important rule in the world, and I felt this way from being a very young man regarding all of our human interactions. It recognizes that we're all family. It tells us that we should not only observe our words and actions, but our thoughts towards others. And when you hold in your heart positive thoughts towards others, that reflection, that energy, that connection goes out. Because what you hold in your heart while you're thinking, doing, or saying anything is really what's most important. So if I've convinced you even a little to consider turning up the dial on your use of the Golden Rule, you might be wondering how you can do that. Well, here you go. Here are 6 simple steps. And first and foremost, why? Well, because, as I said, I think it's the most important rule in the world. Who? Guess what? Everyone. And you should use the Golden Rule with yourself. Isn't that an interesting concept? The Golden Rule all by itself, and you can use it in whatever format you want, the positive, the negative, the empathic. We start to realize that it sets this wonderful tonality for our interactions. And when? Start now, and simply don't stop. And where? Everywhere you go, when you go to the store, when you interact with a clerk, when you see someone that you know, someone you don't know, when you go to temple or church, or when you go to any activity, share that. Guard your mind. This is the most important thing that you can do. Check in with yourself, and in your engagements, ask with your heart. Then let God do his job, because he knows what's on your heart. So the guided meditation I'd like to lead us on tonight is very simple. We'll be listening to a beautiful ambient soundscape while looking at and meditating on 14 forms of the Golden Rule. So this will be an eyes open meditation. Allow the music to connect you both to earth and divinity. Feel in your heart the power that each one of these simple messages evokes in you. And I'll ask again that everyone remain on mute so that you can please listen to these aloud. You can repeat them aloud or silently in your mind as you wish. You can read them and repeat them. If you find one that truly speaks to you, repeat it in your mind and make it a beautiful mantra. I invite you all to take a deep breath and bring your awareness back to the present moment. And let's move forward with a new appreciation for the guidance of the simple yet powerful Golden Rule. And in just a moment, I would like to invite Reverend Don Kunze back to the microphone to share our universal blessing with you.
Thank you, Reverend Bud. Universal blessing. The divine bestows these blessings on all of us. Miraculous love and providence, comfort, hope, and healing, understanding hearts, resistance to temptation, freedom from egoism, equal vision, faith, devotion, and wisdom, spiritual progress and inner strength, virtuous hearts, compassion for the less fortunate, love for all. May these blessings of the divine rest upon us. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May we lift the veil and see the divine spark in all of them. Peace, shalom, shanti. Reverend Bud?
Thank you, Reverend Don. So in just a moment, I'm going to invite Reverend Gudjon to come forward and to lead us in our experiential sharing.
Hey, Reverend Bud. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, so now it's time for the viewers to become participants. The experiential sharing segment, the idea behind it is that an experience cannot be wrong. We can have wrong thoughts. We can have, beliefs that not everybody shares. But when we share an experience from our lives, there's no arguing with that. Like, what is your experience of walking, right? My experience of walking is this and this, and I can, expand on that, but that's my experience. You can say, well, my experience of walking is this, and then we can share and then I can see walking from your perspective, and you can see walking from my perspective, but it's not wrong in that way. So that's why I find that when people speak from the heart, so to speak, it opens up a dialogue, it opens up a conversation, and it resonates with people in a different way than when they talk, for instance, about what they believe or what any book of value to them says, and so on. But when they speak from the heart, when they speak from experience, it's different. So the question tonight is, but if you want to move that to the next slide, I think it's there. What has been your personal experience of the Golden Rule? And Bud talked about all these various ways in which to experience the Golden Rule. So internally, what has been the Golden Rule? Like, how do I feel about treating myself as I would like to be treated? Or do I treat myself worse than I would treat others, right? What has been my experience of treating others as I would like to be treated? And maybe most importantly, how do I feel when other people treat me as they would like to be treated? And in all of this, what has been the impact on your life if you have used the Golden Rule in any of its various forms? How has it impacted not just your daily life, but your spiritual life, your sense of well-being, your personal identity, and so on and so forth? But just start with a simple, what has been my personal experience of the Golden Rule? As always, first round, everybody be brief, less than 2 minutes of sharing, and then we can expand upon that. So if you could turn off the slides, Bud, and if you know how to raise your hand virtually, it's in the reactions button down there. You go and you can raise your hand there. Or if you just want to do it the old manual way, you can just raise your hand. I can see all of you, and I'll ask you to unmute when you're ready to share. So if I can call on Don to begin with. Don, your experience of the golden rule in your life.
Okay, thank you. I tend to look at the more esoteric version of it, in the sense that we are no different than anybody else. In fact, everyone is who we are. And I remember many years ago, it really struck me that when I would walk along the street, everybody would smile at me. And I was wondering, where's this coming from? And it took me a while to figure out the reason was I was smiling at everybody else. So I became aware of that. And I found that if I'm walking down the street and I start smiling, if people aren't smiling, as soon as they see me smiling, they smile. It's an immediate feedback of giving and receiving. That is, you only give to yourself. It was interesting when we moved into the mask period of COVID, that I'd walk down the street and everybody looked angry. You know? I mean, you couldn't see any smiles. My smile wasn't visible. Nobody else's smile was visible. It was a dead world. And that really struck me as much as the first time I realized that the smiling was a really great exchange of the golden rule. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. That's a great point. Getting back to a maskless universe is a smiling or frowning universe. I mean, at least we see more than just the eyes. To add on the thing that you said, I mean, one way of looking at the golden rule esoterically, if the oneness is the underlying essence here, then actually what we do unto others, we are doing unto ourselves, right? So that's another way to view that. Jill Keller, welcome to join the conversation here. If you unmute, and what has been your experience of the golden rule?
I'm not quite sure which monitor to look at. Oh, I think over here.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. Thank you, Don, for what you just said, because it helped me realize, for me, it seems to be about like politeness and manners, in that, like, hold the door for someone. And like when I go to the market, put the cart back. And if I'm using a public restroom, like wipe the sink if it's wet, or like if I notice the paper towel is overflowing, I'll take some paper towel, to protect my hands, and I'll try to like push it down. And sometimes I'll make a judgment call because I don't want to be annoying or whatever. But if like the bathroom's totally trash, I'll go to the store manager and I'll say, just to let you know, someone might want to circulate, like there's no hand soap, so I feel like I loved this presentation and I came in late, but I just wanted to say how much Don's example helped me, because I think personally, the way that I struggle with the golden rule is it's automatic to be, courteous, because it bothers me when I don't see those courtesies. But for me, I think what can sometimes make me be very crestfallen is I feel like I lead a lot with that idea of whatever you see, forgive it 7 times, 77 times, So it's like, I think sometimes I absorb too much, because rather than coming from the golden rule as my lead thought, I think my lead thought is forgive, forgive, forgive. And so I'm sorry I talked a long time, but I just wanted to put that
this
out.
is perfect. Thank you, Jill. Thank you.
Whether anybody else kind of has that sense of always having to just forgive everything, and then you feel kind of crestfallen.
Yeah. Well, but you bring up 2 interesting points here from an experiential standpoint. One is just being courteous, being nice, paying it forward. I'd like to be treated this way, so here's how I treat everybody, right? And then this sense of, well, when I treat people like this and I don't get the reciprocity, right? So what do we do with that? And I think that's the hard part of practicing the golden rule, is when we act in a certain way and then the universe goes like, yeah, not everybody's going to reciprocate like that. And so we need to kind of learn how to navigate the world in that way. So thank you for sharing that, Jill. Excellent. Jon?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What is your experience of the golden rule?
Well, first, I really appreciate everyone sharing, and I appreciate how Bud shared and explained the three elements, or what is sometimes called the silver rule in its earlier negative or iteration, don't do, the golden rule, and then the empathic one. I remember reading about the platinum rule. Dave Karpin wrote about in his book Art of People, that do unto others as they would want to have done to them. And it put the emphasis on empathy, of extending yourself past yourself as to what their needs. And there was that passages in the Dale Carnegie. I had a friend who influenced people who said, I like strawberries and cream, but when I go fishing, for some reason, the fish seem to like grasshoppers or worms. It's like, so you have to kind of, the salesman in them, you have to kind of know what they want empathically. So this Dave Karpin had the empathic, what they would want. And where I've come to is even something else is show up with others or do unto others, and not using those words, as God would want to have done. And I think we have that quality within us, because even with the empathic approach, the ego is still part of the equation. What do I think they want? Well, God knows, and we all have that ability to enter into that space of Godness. And in that space of Godness, God knows exactly what it is that needs to be done for all parties to have exactly what they need. So what I'm learning, I can't say learn, but learning in my practice is to show up always in love and to listen. And
Just a quick follow-up on that, Jon, is how does that impact, your interactions when you are able to do that?
Well, whether it's, annoying to my daughter endlessly, which is part of the joy of it, is to I always engage people in conversation in the simplest of things. Or when I'm doing something online and need help from people, it's always humorous, joyful, and they're laughing and they're happy. So I know that it's showing up in the God way, because I walk away happy, even on something as ordinary as, Apple helping me with my computer. They're laughing, they're joyful. So I know it's working because I'm just showing up joyfully open and I'm listening. And that as a basis for action, I have found no better rule than that. And it guides me daily, and it always, quote unquote, works. And I always walk away saying, that was really good. I didn't think I was going to like that, or I was just going to be an ordinary experience, but they got something from it. I got something from it. And it's each got his own, because it wasn't me trying to figure it out. I'm not that clever. So,
well, you bring an excellent point to it, an experience of presence, of bringing presence to each interaction and that sensibility. So thank you for that, Jon. I appreciate.
So I would say,
yeah,
show up in love. God knows what needs to be done.
Excellent. Thank you. Perfect. Barbara, what's been your experience with the Golden Rule?
Well, I loved the way you took us through, Bud, because it gave such an expansive view. I've always thought of the Golden Rule as something that somehow I was supposed to just do to others, even though it was supposed to be what I wanted done to me. But the piece that kind of was missing is that, well, if they didn't do it to me, then do I lose? Well, there's no losing in the Golden Rule. You give it, It is kind of like when Donna was talking about the masks and the smiles. People's eyes smile wonderfully. And I would see people, if you smiled at them, even though we all kind of knew we couldn't see each other's lips smile, the eyes would smile. And there was just something about the fact that just by and having it be a part of every faith, that it is so unselfish, and yet at the same time, the self receives. There's no way to not receive if you give it with that sense of openness and grace. And this is, of course, and sometimes it takes people a while, because we all get lost in other kinds of thoughts, to go, oh, even with a smile, oh yeah, hi. And so I think that it's just putting it out there. It's an energy, and who knows where it's going to land. But part of it is the fact that I can also not only forgive others, I can forgive myself. I can not only give to others, I can give to myself. That's not the main point, but that's the extra point. And through Christian, this week of Easter, I mean, that's what Jesus said, forgive them. They know not what they do. Well, so you kind of let them off the hook to some extent, which was pretty big of him, I thought. But, and I wanted to add one more thing too, is that this is Maundy Thursday in Eastern Orthodox Christianity. Tomorrow will be Good Friday, and Saturday will be Holy Saturday, and Easter will be Sunday. Can never come before or immediately after Passover by the Julian calendar. And that's what I was raised in. And so it would be Christos Voskrese and Voistinu Voskrese. And the people of Ukraine and Russia, many, many, many are wanting to be able to do that this coming weekend. And the terror and the sadness. And if we can send prayers to them, I think it will also widen and spread the prayer in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Excellent. Okay, nobody else has their hand up. Does anybody want to share? You can, again, raise your hand in the reaction button here, or raise your physical hand and I can see all of you on the monitors. Angela? Unmute then. Okay, what's been your experience with the Golden Rule?
Oh my goodness, I was listening to what everyone was sharing, because I grew up knowing about the Golden Rule because my parents told me that, but it didn't seem like it applied to me. Like, be nice to other people, but like it didn't apply to me. I don't understand that, but applying the Golden Rule, because I have such a close relationship with the God of my understanding, right? I think that how I learned about how I experienced the Golden Rule with him is he shows me both sides of it. If that makes any sense. Let me give you an example. He shows me both sides of the Golden Rule. Like, I'm not going to get into my whole life, but just different things happening to me growing up. Like, so many things happened in my life and I felt the kind of way. So then when it was for someone else who those things happened to, I knew how they felt. Or at least I know I was as close to how they felt as I could, because I can't say exactly how they felt, but I had an idea. And so that helped me to stay with the Golden Rule, treat people as you would treat themselves. Like even, in my 20s, I started saying, well, somebody taught me to do this. If I say this, what can happen? If I do this, what can happen? The blessed part is when I remember that, because sometimes I don't remember that. And it's like, you can't catch the words once they leave your mouth. But I think that's a good rule to live by. So now, like, you don't have to experience everything negative to know that this particular thing that people do works for them. So I'm hoping that includes more love everywhere in this world, because that's what's missing and that's what's needed. So that's my experience.
Well, thank you, Angela. And it is the thing, the personal thing that you talk about is, you know, I've been in all kinds of groups over the years, and I can say that when people share their pain, right, and get that empathy, and they find just somebody, just anybody who can empathize with that pain, who has maybe not exactly the same experience, but you know, there's a deep connection through that as well. So yeah, and it gives the, you know, for me, it gives the pain purpose. It's not just like, you know, oh, this happened to me and I'm such a victim, but as soon as I can share with somebody and talk about the pain and context and maybe help somebody else, then all of a sudden, oh, now I'm, you know, and that's another version of the golden rule. But what you talk about as well, I think we all need to struggle with. I'm coming back to the same point that I talked about earlier, but it's this: when we decide I'm going to treat people as I would have them treat me, but then they don't treat us back in that way, or people come and they treat us really badly, and you know, we continue to treat them well. And for me, that's the spiritual practice, right? That's the hard part, because that's that's spiritual weightlifting, right? So yeah, thank you, Angela. Jill, you wanted to double dip? You want to come back? Oh, you have to unmute.
Just briefly, because you had meant, Barbara, thank you for complimenting all of those slides, because they were just so wonderful. And I really loved that one about, you know, just native belief of, you know, caring for the earth, and that the golden rule is like, it didn't have the word stewardship, but it very much made me think about like our universe. Like, look, we're all ambassadors, you know, like we're all part of United Nations and NATO and all of those things. And that like, we all have to care for the planet. And like, so when I saw that one, you know, just for a second, I thought to myself, wow, you know, if like Native people would say, you know, the health of the community is, you know, how are the trees doing? How are the animals doing? How's the water doing? How's the air doing? I just thought to myself, wow, we're really screwing it up, you know? So you know, I think all of us on this call intuitively, we're very spiritual people. Like we are moved, and we're moved by trying to understand others and appreciating different cultures and different perspectives. And so that particular slide, I think for me, what really resonated is, you know, sometimes I think certain people can get hung up on like, I came in late. And so when I came in just when the Islam slide was up. And I happen to be married to a Muslim, and there's so much Islamophobia, like there's just so much of it. And then the different slides were all about a religion, or what you'd think of as a religion. And so when that Native one came up, I just thought, you know, that's like the equalizer, like that's the bar. Like, are we all being good to all living things, the grass, you know, the birds, each other, you know what I mean? And not just humans when they're small. Like, are we still nice to humans after they're 5 years old? Or like, are we only nice to them 0 to 5? And then maybe like,
difficult, you know.
Yeah. So anyway, so
and
sorry.
Then sometimes less difficult as they age, or sometimes, you don't know. Thank you so much, Jill. And I think we'll wrap that up. Again, thank you for another excellent sharing segment. It's easily, of course, I'm biased here. It's easily my favorite part of these services because I get to hear a reflection on the topic from a personal standpoint, and that enriches me in a different way. I reflect on the material first on my own, and then I can hear your reflections on it, and that enriches me tremendously. So thank you all for sharing, and back over to you, Bud.
Thank you, Gudjon. I really enjoyed that. And I just want to add one small thing in this whole process, and that is when we look through the lens of the golden rule, and one of the things that I kind of mentioned as an aside in there is, are we using the golden rule on ourselves? You know what it feels like to be treated well by someone you love, someone who cares for you. Are you treating yourself that way? I know that I can be a very hard taskmaster on myself. And my wife, who loves me and I adore her, constantly reminds me to use the golden rule on myself in the many ways that she shares. Just take it easy. It's not that bad. And life gets a lot better. It's easy for me to use a golden rule than everybody else if you've been practicing it for a long time and letting it go when it doesn't happen, if it's not reciprocated. But then are we treating ourselves in the way that Jesus would treat you, that Muhammad would treat you, that whoever your belief system is based on, when that place of pure compassion and love, are you treating yourself that way? Just things to think about. All right, so we're going to do our announcements very quickly. Here are our Interfaith Themes for the year. And as you notice that right now we're in April, the Golden Rule. Gudjon, I am sharing my slide, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. We've got gratitude coming up. I'm going to be speaking about that. You see, we have a number of wonderful topics that we've got leaders who have already stepped up and say they want to be participating and leading these. We've got a few, though, that aren't ready, that aren't taken yet, and we'd love to have everyone contribute. So if you're an alumni of All Faiths Seminary and you would like to participate or lead, we would love to have you. And so these are our themes. And if you feel like one of these speak to you and you'd like to really participate in, for instance, resonance and harmony, let us know. We would be happy to have you. Next month, our theme is gratitude, and that will be led by Reverend Dr. John Crisco and Reverend Don Kunze. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a really wonderful opportunity and a chance for all of us to experience what gratitude is and what gratitude means to each of us. Dr. Jon Mundy teaches nearly every week on A Course in Miracles, focusing on the practical applications of the ACIM principles. And April through May, he's teaching on living a miraculous life. And you can register, and there's a link in chat, thank you, Gudjon, at miraclesmagazine.org. There is this weekend, a Know Thyself conference, and tomorrow, starting on Earth Day and continuing through the weekend, it's a free Know Thyself conference. And in fact, Reverend Dr. John will be speaking at 1 on ET on Saturday. And his topic is To Thine Own Self Be True. He also every month interviews and dialogues with speakers of different wisdom traditions. In May, he'll be exploring the idea of trust yourself, you are perfectly cared for. And joining him will be David Fishman, a longtime student and amazing teacher of the course. And again, you can register there for all of that at miraclesmagazine.org. Iman Reverend ArifHuskic, along with the Common Word Alliance and the Ministry and Spirituality Centers for Humanity, has every Friday at 3 Eastern a healing prayer for humanity. And they've offered this over 100 times so far, ever since COVID started. And it's a wonderful interfaith gathering focused on our collective healing. And again, there's a link in chat to their Facebook site, and that's where you can sign up for it. Guru Dilipji is leading the annual Earth Day Festival focused on this year's theme, Invest in Our Planet. And that's tomorrow, Earth Day, Friday, at 10 a.m. ET, and it'll run till 1 o'clock. And we've got a link in chat for it. And knowing Guruji, it's going to be an amazing and heartwarming event. As we previously mentioned, New Light Temple is the ordaining body for All Faiths Seminary International, which offers brilliant interfaith programs that encourage you to go deeper into your own faith while exploring the beauty and the mystical aspects of all the world's religions. New classes start every year in September, and you can find out more about the seminary from our link in chat, allfaithseminary.org. And if you have any upcoming events that you would like to share, so they're coming up in May, June, July, whatever in the future, please send them to thenewlighttemple@gmail.com, and we will be happy to include them. The New Light Temple is a nonprofit organization, and all of us here are volunteers. If you'd like to help us defray some of the costs of offering our service and encourage us to do more, please support us by clicking on the PayPal link in chat. And with that, I would just like to express from my heart, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your participation, your support. And if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to email us at thenewlighttemple@gmail.com. Have a blessed evening, and we will see you on the third Thursday of every month. Salam.